You want to take this on this job? Just go ahead.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So,
We couldn't say
We'll just pan around.
that God is strictly speaking alive.
Yeah.
So I mean, even if the Son is the giver of all life and the reason we're all here, we can't prove or even assume that it's alive. It might just be one of those, things that's just a gaseous ball of light that happens to be, the proper distance away from us that gives us warmth and heat in, nice curved terms. I don't know if we get to say it's alive or living. Yeah, no, we're way out there.
Like when we're talking about life, are we discussing biological life? What about life? What aspect? Because you're giving me a range that's too big for me to market. And
Well, we're
every
trying to
argument I make, you can reverse.
Well, that's just that's an accident. That's really just a bunch of neurons firing. This reality that you're experiencing right now is basically, there's no meaningful reasoning behind it that you can intellectually, splurge out about and regurgitate into words. So that's strictly in material terms. And maybe you want to comment on material questions?
Well, yeah, material, to me is obviously that which is biological. It's, the fact that I happen to be in a state of living right now as defined by the fact that I am not dead. And the analogy of Homer Simpson, becoming an amputee, that really does open up a can of worms. Because, there's obviously, if you want to argue, there's, a certain amount of identity in his arm, and therefore his arm is equally him, you can, but as far as concerned, life is concerned, amputees, they have these phantom feelings. It's very well documented. That amputated arm, he still senses it as if it is there, which may be an example of immaterial life if you, choose to interpret it that way.
Well, I think there's still evidence. There's very clear in Kelly's example about how somebody amputates your arm. Yeah, they can still sort of, I guess, feel it. Was that the study?
Yeah, they feel it. They might, they feel it like it's there. They might feel pain. It might itch. I mean, there's sensations as if it's there.
yeah, they call it the phantom limb.
They call them phantom feelings, and and it's interesting because.
But can't that just be explained by in a material sense?
That's what I was going to get
to.
to.
In fact, it's the nerves still not growing necessarily, but scarring over like in a scar tissue.
It's your brain.
Right, well, no, but they're sending synapses back to the brain, but it's the nerves attached to the place that where the get caught up at the elbow. The nerves right there are scarring over and then sending synapses firing back to the brain.
If it has nothing to do with the nerves, though. Like the thing is that the part of your brain that is next to it just keeps on growing.
Oh, really?
So what happened is that because you don't have your arm and that part is dead, the part next to it, it will just take over.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about anatomy as I clearly demonstrated right now.
I want to make wow, I kind of forgot what I was going to say. I believe what I was going to say is maybe you're having some problems just making a distinction between the concept of a brain and the concept of a mind. That being said, the brain is the organ. The brain is very much, the organ that has the chemicals and the neurons firing, and it's a biological part of one's body. Right. The mind is more of the abstract idea
that's the immaterial
of the immaterial of our personalities and all that. And of course, I believe it's that human psyche within the immaterial mind that makes the person feel that, and like the arm's still there. And there's even scenarios where identity can be drawn so strongly that they might feel something that was never there to begin with. The most telling example of this would be a transsexual woman, a male body person who has a female gender identity, who feels breasts that are not there.
Yeah. Couldn't you argue then, though, that just playing devil's advocate, in that example, couldn't you just argue that the man has a higher level of estrogen in his body than, say, a normal, or not a normal man, but a regular, average man? I'm not trying to distance people.
You can.
The people that the average male may not have.
You can. What does that change?
The entire argument, whether or not you're talking about the immaterial mind or the material senses, the experience that you glean from, any sort of body feeling. Well, if it's just a regulation of estrogen in the body, then we're not talking about the mind or the psyche, we're talking about hormone levels and chemicals in the body, which are very material, which, to put it in another sense, leave when you die. They rot away with you with the blood and bone and marrow, as opposed to the psyche, or the mind, if you want to call it that, which arguably doesn't when you die.
Well, there are scenarios where the material and immaterial inevitably connect. They're like chemical reactions. You could be under influence of a drug, and that will make you behave a certain way, as opposed to if you are not under the influence of said drug. That's a very literal example of something physically affecting you into behavior, which is obviously not material in the way you would think of it.
No, I would still argue that's material. I'm sorry, you had something to say?
I would say it's material. I'm kind of curious to see what everyone's opinion is.
Yeah, because we're just going back and forth. Yeah,
Really?
Who, show of hands, who actually believe there's actually an immaterial world, or is it just like an immaterial, like a spiritual realm kind of thing?
Yeah, say whatever you
Oh,
want.
it's a
Yeah,
helpful
but
distinction.
how many actually believe that there's actually that exists, as compared to everything is just material?
What do we got? 1, 2, 3,
Like you actually believe in a spiritual realm.
7. Did you raise your hand?
Well, just because it's not
Gotta be careful.
material.
No, but I mean,
Because what I'm thinking is that
say
they're
whatever you want.
abstract.
You say whatever you want. It could be heaven, Elysium, spiritual realm, whatever. But
Another reality of Don Juan, it could be
Yeah,
anything.
something else. It may be an easier way to put it. But we're just trying to distinguish between this and what happens when you die.
Matter and energy.
There you go. I mean, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be anything religious. It could be
Just curiosity. Right?
Yeah.
That way I know where everyone's coming from when they're talking.
Yeah, exactly.
So who oh,
Just about everyone right here.
So I just want to also clarify that, okay, for immaterialism, it doesn't necessarily have to mean that, we're talking explicitly about some 72 virgin Muslim idea of paradise, or actually, some heaven or hell ideas that if this isn't the reality, then it's the, what is that, a false dilemma fallacy, where it's either this or that.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be heaven or hell either.
Slippery slope.
Could be shitload of things.
False dilemma.
Yeah.
Oh,
This-
okay.
easily
How do you
so.
think about that?
Right.
I would miss that, yeah.
I just lost my point.
Oh, sorry.
The point is,
Like, for example, the color blue, is there
this is general concept that's what we're trying to get to, or?
Yeah, that immaterialism doesn't necessarily have to be
I mean,
defined
is that
as,
material?
There's a book by Gertrude
as
called,
either this reality or the heaven or hell, or this reality or the 72
Whichever is
virgins.
subjective, you can believe it, whatever.
Yeah, if it's not this reality, it could be any other idea. I mean, so that's what immaterialism kind of breeds to. And we don't know, we just don't have the knowledge capable of understanding
So
if there is another truth. And if there is, that's what you believe, then
colors that much, but if you take
that's
that
sort of
colors in
your
general are
idea.
abstract. They are by definition immaterial. They're not something that you can't pick up and eat glue. You can't chuck, glue against the wall. It's like, it's like asking when you get a number away. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Alright.
these are all immaterial or if not immaterial, abstract concepts.
So we don't, I guess, fuzz around this idea too much, because I know this is a really blurry topic as it is. Let's just, for the sake of, I guess, going through this already, the worksheet, so you guys can, I guess, understand it in at least one way. Let's just define these terms as this. So material is basically all the physical constituents of your body that make you, you. When I say you, I'm talking not about anything that, if you're referring, when I say you, to the fact that you can recollect things, that you could draw upon natural numbers, that you could basically understand things intuitively, conceptualize, abstract, things like that. In a purely materialistic universe, all that is simply, there's no meaningful understanding behind it. It's just simply an accident. And if anybody is a naturalist or a materialist, you want to correct my wording when I say that, but an immaterialist, for the sake of this, is going to be something that's not necessarily spiritual, but it has overtones that you could interpret it that way. But immaterial is more the idea that if it's not this reality that makes you you, you're probably, once you die, and this is why this is all important, because we're going to get to what death means. Once you die, the immaterial part is something that just doesn't die. It's the mind, as it were. And that does have a meaning. That could probably have religious interpretation. Maybe you go heaven or hell or something. Maybe you don't. So that's what I mean by immaterial. Everybody kind of clear on that?
Yeah, so I got a question, like, let's say that, how people say, oh, maybe someone died, but I still believe in them, like, think about them.
Yeah,
Can they still be alive that way? Is that what immaterial is about?
Like someone keeps them in their heart.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, I mean, you can keep them in your heart. The memory may be painful, may be beautiful, whatever, but that can still be construed in one of these two ways. So,
I think what you're getting at though is kind of creepy, because if, let's just say that they are alive, let's just say that by keeping them in your head and heart, they are in some literal sense alive, that means that they're living in you.